I just thought that we'd bring it a bit more relaxed for this one. So is there anything that's made you laugh when reading an assignment?
Oh, yes. Well, I'm even laughing now, sorry. Yes, oh goodness. And again, for people listening and watching this, it's not about just, we're not having to go at anybody, but we're only human. But yeah, definitely. I suppose one of the recurring themes that I've been going on about in the last number of years, but I have to say, particularly in the 21st century, is exaggerated claims. Comments like, my extensive research, and I invariably write, you mean you read it, you looked at a book? I mean, you're laughing. I mean, the amount of people who say that, and also not students, with practitioners, it's similarly, having conducted a range of research, and I go, sorry, that's a very different statement. So, just to help me understand, what was the research? And they go, I was looking at Kaylee Rose Evans' website. I said, okay, so you're looking at it, what color is it? And they go, what? I said, what do you mean you were looking at it? So did you actually access any resources? Yes, what? What? Yeah, what did you? I can't remember. Okay, so what impact did it have on you? And rightly, this is just gloss. They're just looking, hitting, going. And that's what I was back to saying about the attention economy that we now have. I mean, advertisers are after our attention. That's not a secret. They want to captivate that. Increasingly, we're teaching people, which worries me beyond measure, to have poor concentration. If I could, I'd like to be teaching lessons in concentration, observation, etc. We're very poor. You know this yourself. We can all get caught out. You can speed read something and miss loads of it. Lots of people maybe read the first bit of a text message and go, oh, well, that was only a line. And then when they open it later, there's all this other stuff. And I've made mistakes like that as well. I'll give you a couple of, I've got a couple of funny lines, if I may share with you. But this is a wee truism on head, but just let me give you this line. I'm going to read it slowly. Okay, this is something I read in a piece of academic work. A cultural belief within society is the belief that the male dominator is the breadwinner and the female is the one who stays at home and cooks the meals. Now, meals as an M-A-L-E-S. I was shocked when I read this. I put a big warning to the student going, firstly, I'm not coming to your house for dinner. But I was really worried. But who's ever heard of the male dominator? Interesting phrase, who's the breadwinner? No, now that was someone who did not read. Now, when I shared this, which is a few years ago, you sometimes do a generic feedback session before students see their work. Now, of course, it's all online. It's a bit different, and there's strengths and weaknesses for both those approaches. But I'd shared a couple of things that I do, as I said, generic assignment feedback. But these are things that were helpful. These are things that definitely weren't. For next assignment, I'm sharing this with you in the hope that you learn. And when I read that as one example out, the student herself was one of the people who laughed most at that comment. that bemused me, because later going over the assignment, she was shocked that she had written it. It was just funny. Also, I just want to hit, and you fell into this trap a while ago with me as well, or you might be asking this as a question later, but just in case, do you lose marks if? So I just want to just nail that on the head now. You do not lose any marks. I always say to people, let me get to the next step. There's a misapprehension when it comes to marking. You don't have any. The marks are to be gained, not lost. So you cannot lose marks for poor referencing. You cannot lose marks for poor writing. You gain marks, you just don't have any. So Kaylee, as a good student, is going after the marks for referencing, going after the marks for good writing, going after the marks for anti-oppressive practice, going after the marks for good content, the use of theory and skills, etc., etc., etc. So you start with 0, you're aiming for 100, or whatever it is your standard is that you're after. So please get that out of your head, and whatever academic, please take it online as well. Stop saying you can lose marks for. That presupposes the students already have the marks. Let's say, and also just another little humorous one for me, because you did ask me from, please don't write as you speak. Don't speak as you write, because more often than not, we write with an accent. So there's words and phrases and lines and things I've read, which just That made me laugh. Now, rather than my own stuff now, this Kate was sent to me by a religious colleague. So there's just about 5 or 6 comments. Now, these are lifted from across Britain in church magazines, so Christian sort of backgrounds, etc., etc. And I'm not picking them because I'm Christian. In fact, I'm not coming from that perspective. But I just thought they were very funny, so I'll read them out to you. These are in church notices now, okay? And I mean, just ignore the grammar and syntax, stuff like that. I'm reading them as they are. The fasting and prayer conference includes meals. That did make me laugh. Don't let worry kill you off. Let the church help. Miss Charlie Mason, whoever she is, now I'm hoping that's a made-up name. Miss Charlie Mason sang, "I will not pass this way again," giving obvious pleasure to the congregation. For those who have children and don't know it, we have nursery downstairs. What? Please give your donation in the envelope along with the deceased person you want remembered. Potluck supper, Sunday at 5 p.m. Prayer and medication to follow. You just need medication after that, don't you? This evening at 7 p.m. there will be hymn singing in the park across from the church. Please bring a blanket and come prepared to sin. Obviously, they left off a G. Low self-esteem support group will meet Thursday at 7 p.m. Please use the back door. How awful is that?
Yeah.
The pastor would appreciate it. Imagine if you're the pastor who wrote this now. The pastor would appreciate it if the ladies of the congregation would lend him their electric girdles for the pancake breakfast next Sunday. Obviously meant griddles. Scouts are saving aluminium cans, bottles and other items to be recycled. This is awful. Proceeds will be used to cripple children. And then finally, the church will host an evening of fine dining, super entertainment and gracious hostility. Do you think they meant hospitality?
Hopefully.
As you said earlier, we've got to be proofreading. And more often than not, we're leaving it with spell checkers. And I sent a message to a student a couple of weeks ago, and just, I don't know how to spell his name. Now, often I get messages to me going, "Hiya," there's a colleague of mine who, if he's ever watching this, will know who he is. And he famously calls me gerrymandering, which is how he interprets it. When he goes to write Jerry, obviously he's doing it fast. And it more often because that was gerrymandering. So it's now just an in-joke between us. So it's sort of important. Things can make us laugh, but of course there's a serious point. Mean what you say what you mean, and write it accordingly. And of course, we'll all make mistakes, but they should be few and far between. You can never go in front of anybody formally assessing you and say, "Sorry, I didn't know. I didn't know." Ignorance is no defense. Legally, it's no defense. And you could, I mean, if you're on court and producing a report that had those sort of mistakes, you'd be in such bother. We should be respectful of what we're doing with our words as well as everything else, because it's part and parcel of our practice. So there you go. Hopefully I'll give you a couple of giggles and we'll give the audience a few giggles.
Yeah, I thought that was funny and really helpful as well, because it just made me think about some of my practice where I've developed assessments over time, and I definitely think more critically about not just taking the wording of the form. I use my own interpretation and for what I think is right for the person. Judgment. That's definitely the word, because I had one situation where I built up a really good relationship with someone, and then they said, "You would never write that about me." But it was when I was newly qualified, and it was because I'd used some of the wording of the form that didn't sound right. And ever since then, I've been really careful to think, if someone was sat behind me while I was typing this, would I be happy with that? And it's definitely served me better, because I've never had anyone pick me up on anything since, and in terms of my wording. So I just thought that that's a good point to make about how important this is for practice, really, as well.
Yeah, good woman.